Yeah. Oh, sorry. I mean, we can catch you up, but
No.
okay. So now we're starting a pasuk by request, Mishlei 15:27, a famous one. Ofer beso botzea batza. That's got to be like just for the sake of alliteration, right? Ofer beso botzea batza. V'soni matanos yecheh. So yeah.
That author says the iron is really big.
Yeah.
I think it's a play on words from the Gemara.
From the Gemara?
Yeah, there's Gemara in Brachos that says like the bala bias is botza. Like could be playing on that. Wait, that would make no sense. Maybe that's a play on this.
Yeah. I would think the Gemara came from this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I think for the sake of because we have a slightly shorter time today, I'm just going to translate the first half. Okay. So botzea bata either means so let's say if you look at Mitzvah Sion, okay, botzea bata is hagozel hon, so one who steals wealth. Okay, so that's one interpretation. If you look at Targum Ksuvim, the Targum says movid beise mechanish mamon deshkar, one who gathers wealth of falsehood. Okay, so it's either one who steals money or one who makes illicit profit. Okay, like illegal profit somehow, so illegal profiteering. Ofer beito sullies his household or his house. I should say his house. He sullies or corrupts his house. Okay, the son of matanos yichye. But one who hates gifts will live. Okay. Yeah. So that's straight up translation. Let's see. Sadigon, maybe we should also ignore for now. He will shame or embarrass his household. Okay, so that's an interpretation and more of a translation. Unless he's actually saying ocher means literally like to embarrass. I'm not really sure. And then if you look at the rest of the Targum, if you look at the rest of the Targum, he says movid bete mechanish mamadishkar. So one who gathers money, one who amasses money of falsehood, destroys his house. Udasane mohaviyasa demagin yiche, and one who hates undeserved gifts will live. Okay.
Magan means undeserved.
Yeah, according to the Jastro. Our scroll says one who gains through greed sullies his home, but one who hates gifts will live. So they kind of say motive there for botea bata. Living Now says he who pursues unjust profits mars his household. It's kind of like our translation. But he who loathes gifts will live. And then Alter says he blights his house whose gain is ill-gotten. Ill-gotten gains is a metaphor. Okay. Yeah. But the hater of bribes shall live. Okay, so he says bribes. Yeah. Okay. And I think for the sake of the purposes that Jack wanted to look at the pasuk for here, got that. It is an even split in the Mefarshim, whether we're talking about the context of a judge accepting bribes or whether we're talking about a regular person and gifts. So just let's acknowledge that and then not do the judge with bribes one, okay? Because you want to know about the gifts thing. Yeah. Okay, so questions. Yeah.
What's the relationship between ill-gotten gains and gifts?
Yeah. What is the relationship between the I'm just going to say in the Hebrew, the botzea bata of the first half and the sone matanos of the second half. Yeah, they don't seem related.
What's the direct translation of the pasuk? Yeah.
So botea bata either means one who steals money or one who makes illicit profits, like one who makes illegal profits in some way, you know. In fact, you know what? Maybe should we just say illicit profits because that covers that? Yeah. Actually, no, I don't want to do that because a lot of them do say it literally means to like rob money. So maybe I guess we'll keep it. Yeah. And then one who hates gifts will live. Yeah.
What is botzea bata?
Yeah. Okay. What is botzea bata?
Also, what kind of sullying or ofer are we talking about?
Yeah.
And specifically, I would have thought it would say like vayech.
It was what Sadigon was saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how does ofer compare to yifin?
Yeah. Okay. Good. So ocher beso in what sense? Sorry, in what sense? Yeah, I think, I'm gonna include that question in the first question. So what's the relationship between Botei Bata the first half and Sonny Matanza the second half? Likewise, what is the relationship between Ocher Beso and Yechia? Yeah, you would assume it would say opposite of Yechia is Yamus, is he'll die. And then if it's talking about the household in the first half, you would think it's talking about something in the household for the second half. The consequences or results don't seem parallel.
What's bad about gifts?
Yeah. Okay. Right. Why should a person hate gifts? Right. What's so bad about gifts? Yeah.
Is this all gifts or specific types?
Okay, good. So is this, so let's just broaden that question. What are the parameters of Sony Matanos? Okay. Is it all gifts or a specific type of gifts?
Do we ask what it means by legend?
What?
Do we ask what you think it is?
I don't know what kind. Is that? It smells like Via, but you're like putting it in a coffee filter. What kind of coffee is that?
Colombia.
No, but I'm saying like it's just like regular brewed coffee.
Yeah.
Really
Colombia.
interesting. All right, interesting. Yeah, what was that?
Do we ask what kind of living we're talking about?
No, we did not. What does Yihya
I'm not literally sure.
mean in this context? Yeah, yeah.
And ochre is what again?
Corrupt or sully or embarrass, according to Saudi Gun. Also, what does sone mean? Right? Is this an emotional attitude, or does it mean that you just reject the gifts, or does it mean you have to reject it like contemptuously?
Good question.
Yeah,
You would ask what you think.
yeah.
Are we talking to two different people at the beginning and second half?
Two different people in the second half. Sorry, was
In
saying
the different
in the different halves.
because like the person who should stop feeling is not necessarily the person who you're talking to like
Right.
hate gifts.
That's a good question. So who is the audience, and then is the audience of the two halves the same? Yeah, it does not seem to be the same, like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it seems like there's a middle ground between these two,
Yeah.
I guess.
So we could say, yeah.
I think,
Uh,
I think that's part of it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, it is a different dimension of it, right? Meaning like, because the middle ground, if you take one step to the left from one side, then you get to the thing of a person who doesn't steal.
Right.
And if you take one step to the right from the other side, then it's a person who accepts gifts.
Or even rejects them but doesn't hate
Or
them.
rejects them, doesn't hate them, right, yeah. So what is the middle ground?
But wouldn't that just be kosher sister at that point? If you're rejected.
What would you see it throw?
I mean, not literally, but like
Yeah.
in that realm.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
There's a good question. Like, how do you do that practically? How do you decide to hate stuff?
Right. So that'll get down to the question of whether hating means just emotionally hating or whether it means like rejecting in practice. Yeah. Okay, so I think those are gonna be the main questions.
We
Oh,
mentioned differentiation between living and sonic, like that.
yeah.
What is your bias?
I don't know. I have so many. Yeah. Yeah. What is the? Yeah. So I'll add that to the question of corrupting your house. What does bias mean?
Like, it can mean like family members. It can mean like your possessions.
Right. Could be your legacy,
Yeah.
like base Haman. Yeah.
Reputation.
Could be reputation. I think that I would say would be name. Right. Your name.
Yeah.
I think this would be something. If it's your reputation, it's gonna be your reputation through your legacy or through your household. Yeah. Okay. That's what I would say.
Or the mishpacha, meaning like the family.
Yeah.
The bias. I mean, that's
Right.
like could fall in that category.
So I'll say family, family name, legacy. Yeah. Subaru legacy.
Just the four.
I guess
Sadio definitely seems to be saying family reputation because he says you'll bring shame to your house, to your family. Yeah.
Is characters Tesla have to do with like business, or it's just this one?
I'm not aware of any teams in any Prakim.
Also the person
Unless they're
are
not,
like
or teaching raising kids and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's themes in pockets, yeah, but
Like
the
it's
chapters are not.
It's like it's pretty much all it's like thematic in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, but the Prakim are not from us. Prakim are from the Christians, so it's not going to go based on. I mean, unless they think there's a theme, but yeah,
Got
yeah.
it.
So there are definitely clusters or trends of Psukim that have themes, but
Right.
and I don't recall what surrounds this. Yeah. Okay.
So I was just gonna say practically, I guess the people in your house, if you're stealing, are gonna be supporting themselves and living off of stolen.
Right. That's the yeah. So
Total
I guess this is another question to add to the Ocher Beso, which is not only what does bias mean, but what is the mechanism of the achira, of the corruption or sullying? Um, meaning, is it that the very fact that they are beneficiaries of ill-gotten gains, like, or is it the fact that they know that they're being
Right.
supported by that, or is it the fact that people know and like that affects them? Like Mob's household, everyone knows that that you're in the mafia's, in the Godfather's family, and like that could change things. Yeah.
Can I put up mine too?
Yeah.
So it could be that like stealing and getting gains in ill-gotten ways will is not a sustainable way to get money, and like either the law will catch up with you,
Right.
or I don't know, or just I don't know, people are going to be constantly like you're going to have to basically be trying to get around people to get money.
Yeah.
And so people are going to be trying to stop you, and like
Right.
it doesn't.
That's a
like,
good point.
Not a sustainable way of getting wealth. So
Right.
if your entire household is depending on that.
Yeah.
You're gonna eat, right?
Right. Okay, good. So I know I've mentioned this before, but I have to plug one of the greatest shows of all time is Breaking Bad. Okay. If you have not seen that, then you have to see the whole thing. But that's a perfect example of this, of like going into a something that's like a noble motive to support his family, but then it's not sustainable. That's spoiler alert. It's not sustainable.
I know
yeah.
the motive is not the noble.
Well, it started off noble.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started off noble. Yeah, and yeah, it's
Can I support his on the second half as well? It's like it could be talking about that same point on both halves.
okay. So now, yeah, let's let me just start taking that one more time. So it's not sustainable either because of the crime itself cannot be sustained. Like depending on what types of illicit gains this is. I'm watching. I think it's a new series on Netflix, a new documentary series about like the greatest art heist in history. And like there's a guy, which I did not know that this was a career. He's an art thief. Like that's his thing. I feel like that's not a sustainable career. Like there are only so many museums and stuff, and only so like, and also you can't like sell the art very
Steals it from a museum.
yeah. So like you can't sustain it, or you're gonna get caught because it's a risky endeavor. Or let's say you get to the top of the mafia, then like you always have to be worried that your underlings are going to take you out, or that there's going to be some sort of other like from within the crime world itself. Like that's another thing you have to watch your back. So that's not sustainable. So, and it's going to destroy. Were you theorizing why it focuses on the house as opposed to the guy?
Oh,
You don't have to.
No.
I'm just no. Okay, fine.
You didn't mention that like the support.
yeah, I mean he is
reasonable, meaning
yeah.
like whoever he's supporting is now on
Right.
Right. So that's what I wasn't sure about. In other words, is it focusing on the house in the sense that like whatever makes this whole Parnassa, weird to call it that, tenuous,
Yeah.
is it just more tenuous because he's trying to support a whole household and
Yeah.
like the puzzle, and so it's taking like the
So either that, so that's one option, that it's maybe it would be sustainable for an individual, but
Yeah.
not for family, or maybe it's that you would think that it would only this like you have this like feeling that like, oh, I'm stealing and that is only gonna affect me or whatever, but like my family or whatever, or my clan or
Yeah.
whatever, they're not gonna
right. And I think that might be why my mind went to Breaking Bad. I mean, secondarily, because obviously it went there because it's the best show. But like we're not talking. I don't think this is talking about a guy who is like going out and murdering people and taking their money. I mean, it might be, but like the more common case of this is going to be someone who's just like, engaging in some illicit business practice to get stuff. And so probably he is going to justify it in some way of like supporting his family or whatever, like that's just gonna be a common case. and is addressing the fact that no, the thing that you're trying to help, you're going to end up harming. Yeah. So now you want to extend this idea to the opposite. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I feel like the premise of his point is the instability factor. Like,
Yeah.
you can't depend on it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's quite applicable to gifts as well. Someone who, is not taking by force, but is just accepting support.
Uh-huh.
Is also
Okay, that's a good idea. Okay, right. So in other words, the pasuk is giving you two I mean they're opposites in the sense that one is completely illegal and one is completely like legal, but they're common. They're both in the full side of the pasuk in the sense that you're trying to sustain yourself and your family based on not like working, like on stuff that is being given to you for free, either because you're taking it for free or it's being given to you for free. That's a really good point. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good. I've done this puzzle many times. Never seen that idea.
Can
Yeah.
I give it another idea?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the theme here. I mean, the idea here is in terms of work ethic and how it affects your family.
Yeah.
And if you're a corrupt individual who just does whatever he needs to do to make a business deal go through, whatever it is, it could affect your family members because they're going to be learning from you, and it's going to have this corrupt
Right.
cycle.
Right. Yeah. That's a good interpretation of corrupting your house. Yeah.
And in terms of the matanas, I like the parish who says gifts undeserving, but I think you could also explain it just in normal matanas. Like a matana is like something, someone who just gives it to you, but if you rely on the matanos, as your source of income, that's problematic.
Right. Is it problematic in the same way as you're interpreting the first half, that it's problematic in terms of
No, it's not. It's just a work ethic thing. It's just an issue. And if you're an individual, like spoiled people,
Right.
like you're come from a wealthy household,
yeah,
you just get everything. Everything is just poured onto you.
right,
What does that do to the child?
right. Well, so you are saying it is affecting your household for the second half.
I guess so, but it's not really. Is it a corruption though? It's just a misguided.
I mean, you could learn the corruption and the living
Mhm.
as two sides of the same coin, meaning that your ability to make a living, which you're calling work ethic, that's being emphasized in the second half, and then the effect on your family and their ability. Like, why do you want to make a living for your family? Presumably so that they can grow up and they can make a living. Like, so if the way that you're making a living is going to jeopardize that, then either through spoiling them or through teaching them like, modeling for them bad ways to make a living, that's not going to end well for your kids. Yeah.
I guess my issue was saying that both halves of the pasuk are talking about like unsustainable ways of living. Is that then you wouldn't need to say that the person who's taking gifts should take gifts. It just
Right.
shouldn't like what's the added level of like.
Yeah, so we haven't really explained that yet. So I'm going to call on Joe, and then I want to give one interpretation because I have to go in like 10 minutes, and then we could see where we are after that. Yeah.
Additionally, is that even really true? Like, how many people are being completely sustained by gifts coming from unsustainable sources?
So you're asking on that interpretation? Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, here's the thing: is that like gifts that people perceive as sustainable, like let's say like in COVID, like I'm sure there were a lot of people who were dependent on tzedakah,
I mean, people were dependent on jobs.
No, but the jobs is not what we're talking about. We're talking about tzedakah, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying just because COVID upended, it doesn't make it inherently foolish. People depended on jobs, and their jobs got lost during COVID.
I think
Right, but one thing though is that what's the first thing that's going to go? The first thing that's going to go is when people are just giving you money, like that was like when, and that's what I'm calling gifts. Gifts is giving money that is like tzedakah as an example of matanos, but or let's say like a patron, someone who is like like an artist who is like depending on some wealthy person to fund their art or whatever, like those things can change on a dime, so
like a small number of people. I feel like that's like a really particular.
I think there are a lot of people who depend on tzedakah. Yeah. You know, like I think like this is the whole like, I mean, look in America also. I mean, I'm not saying this as a to criticize like the social or legal thing, but like say like people who are dependent on welfare, you know, or various forms of welfare, you know, like it becomes a thing where you just do depend on that, or people who depend on, like there are a lot of Jewish communities where people depend on their tuition being subsidized, and it's really subsidized by like the wealthy families, you know, and like when the wealthy families like lose their jobs or whatever, which can happen for various reasons, then just all that whole system like gets knocked out, you know,
Right.
or colleges, you know, and their tuitions as well. If you want to go to a non-Jewish example,
Right, but I feel like most people who are like relying on charity like that
Mhm.
don't want to be.
Like, maybe
it's not like they're doing that as
right.
too,
It's possible that they don't want to be. It's possible that they do want to be, but
Oh,
the instance is it almost doesn't matter. You know, the point is that it becomes the thing that you do rely on.
Well, I
Yeah.
sort of feel like maybe it does matter because he says loathe. He doesn't say accept. So if
Right.
you have to, but you hate that you have to, that
Yeah.
means you're always going to be seeking for.
Right. That's true. That's a good point. That might explain
And
it.
if you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm good with gifts, then you're never gonna like get
Yeah.
out of it.
So, sorry to interrupt the flow of the discussion, but I want to give one idea. So look at Rashi.
Wow.
Guys, yeah, I know, right? Rashi gives shot here. Okay, he doesn't say that this is referring to Yehoiakim. Okay, he says so. Ocher base, this is the top left. Ocher beso mishu botea bata, which is the footnote quote an earlier Rashi saying one who steals. Okay, so Rashi learning as stealing, not just like illicit profit. The son of Matanos Yefia me'acher shetzoneh hamatanos, since he hates gifts, kol shekein shu soneh sagaro, all the more so he will hate stealing. Okay, Kol Shekein is another way of saying Kal V'chomer, right? All the more so. So the question is, what is the Kal V'chomer? Okay, like what is this Kal V'chomer? So the way Kal V'chomers work is you take two things that share a quality but differ in quantity, and you say if it's true for the lesser quantity, then it's true for the greater quantity, right? So if you can't lift, you know, a book, then Kal V'chomer, you can't lift a table because they both have the quality of weight, and if your power is insufficient for the lighter one, then it's insufficient for the heavier one. The question is what, like this is getting back to the question of how are these two opposites, you know, like where is there a Kal V'chomer in gifts which are completely legal and acceptable and like robbing someone, you know? Yeah.
Well, I think he doesn't want money that he didn't earn.
Okay, good. So I'm going to say this another way, because the question is why, right? Like, or what would be bad about that?
You earned your robbery.
So that's why I'm going to put it in slightly different terms than earn. Okay, so so I know it's possible that this is that this idea is from Rabbi Moskowitz. We worked it out a long time ago, so I don't know if this is my idea or his idea or both. But that there's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says there are four midos. I forgot if it specifies if just among people or whatever. Is shali shali v'shalach shalach, right? What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. That's like a normal person. Shali shali, sorry, shali shali v'shalach shali. What's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. That's a Russia. Okay. Shali, sorry, shali shalach v'shalach shali. What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. That's I think a fool, right, or a communist. It doesn't say that, but you know. And then the other one is what's mine is yours and what's yours is yours. That's chassid. That's someone who's pious. You know. So the what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine. So that really is the underlying premise of anyone who engages in theft, because like even if they know it's wrong, like at the end of the day, they feel like it's somehow legitimate if they take from you, but if someone took from them, then they would say that that's not legit, you know, like in some framework, you know, like they're gonna obviously rationalize it in some way. But so the thing is that there is this underlying sense of entitlement that is like the premise of all theft, you know, that somehow in some framework, like I deserve this, or I can take this, or something like that, that is, you know, and that is a sense of egocentric entitlement, like you're not entitled in the same way, only I'm entitled in this way. Okay, now switch to gift for a second. So when you get a gift, gifts are completely legal. However, when someone gives you a gift, there is a part of you that feels like, yeah, like I deserve this, you know? So what you're doing, there's always a danger that you are fueling a sense of entitlement whenever you get a gift. Now, it's not inherent. It's not like this has to be in every single gift, but it's a danger. And I think what the pasuk is saying is, it's saying not that you should reject all gifts. It's saying that you should have a recognition of the detrimental effect of receiving the gift, in that it reinforces this egocentric sense of entitlement, and that partakes of the same quality that ultimately expresses itself in theft. And two examples of this, and the way I'm learning. I forgot how we learned the Oker Bezo. I think it was something like what you were saying, is that it affects you or your midot or your household. I don't know why we went to household. That I don't know. But the yichya thing in terms of living is in terms of it's going to affect your decision making. In terms of how you relate to money, in terms of how you relate to like your possessions, in terms of your work ethic. So it's using this broad term living in terms of like Mishlei living, like in terms of using chachma to advance yourself or to take care of yourself. And two examples of this, both of them have to do with food. Is Bnei Israel in the Midbar is one example of this, is that they were sustained by God literally providing all their meals for them, every day. And what did they do? They complained that the food wasn't what they wanted, and it happened several times, right? But they complained about the food, and it's because of the fact that they were being cared for, they got they got this undeserved gift, and then it bred this sense of entitlement, like you were mentioning, the spoiled kid who just gets whatever he wants, and then they started complaining, and they're literally being sustained in a desert for 40 years, And then the other example, which I think in my mind, these two examples are fused, that's why it's connected. So I used to be the dorm counselor in yeshiva, and this was back in the olden days, when we didn't even get rides to the grocery store, we would have to go weeks without, so we would get free pizza on Rosh Chodesh, and it was the best thing to get free food that we didn't have to work for or pay for. It would just be delivered.
Spoiled.
And I remember as dorm counselor, one time this person was complaining, why don't they give us soda? How could they give us pizza without soda? And I just remember being struck by this sense of entitlement, you're getting free pizza, and yet you feel like they should also give you soda, And it's like this, it was just a clean example of this phenomenon of if someone gave him free pizza out of nowhere, I don't think he would say give me soda. I think it was the fact that he had gotten used to getting the free pizza every month. And then that grew the sense of entitlement, and that made him dissatisfied with what he got. And then putting the blame on the giver, and so that's why in practice, I don't think this is saying reject all gifts. I think you could accept gifts, but it's putting it in terms of hatred, because you have to monitor this inner relationship to the free things that you're getting to mitigate this effect. And if you're worried that depending on this, either depending on this or a particularly big gift, if you're afraid that that's going to have this impact on you, then it would be proper to reject it.
Are there any time in the Torah where you cannot reject the matana, or you can always reject the matana?
Good question.
I just don't know factually if that's.
Yeah, I don't know either.
What about matanas?
Rejecting the matana, if you were a poor person and then they give it to you.
Well, I guess you could reject it.
Well, I do know one example. Judges, right?
Oh, right.
Right. I mean, that's the whole category. Taking anything, even the classic case is that if you're a judge and you've already decided the verdict, and then someone offers you the gift, then you can't say I'm going to accept it, because it's not like I'm changing my verdict based on this guy's gift, But I mean, that's kind of a separate issue, but
Right.
of the bribes. But
But interesting, we
Accept gifts outside of their people that they're judging.
That's a good question.
Like some giving Hanukkah presents.
Right. It's a good question. They have conflict of interest stuff in American law, which is very machmir in terms of if you're working for a certain institution, I don't know if there's any sort of getters like that, but I got to go now. So
since matanas of yana, we there's still a halachic concept in giving matanas, which is